and it's Glenda. And most of you know me, but one or two may not. So, it's Fralins and Friends. And I'm going to start out tonight a little different. I know a lot of you did not get the notification when I posted the finish on this. I'm going to blow my own horn. I'm very happy with how it turned out. Gave it some carpet down below, and there's the flowers. Anyway, just thought I'd brag a little on that. If you want to go back and check that out on the final video. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. Need to learn to breathe first. Breathe first and then talk. Anyway, I like the antique look of it, the heirloom, whatever you want to call it. Tonight, though, I'm going to go back to some watercolors, and I'm going to do a few tulips with some watercolor. And I think I'm going to do some like two-tone, almost like stripe. There are so many kinds of tulips. And they're just, I mean, there's fluffy ones, there's, big ones, there's just so many. But I'm going to do a fairly common one. Okay, watercolor. Alrighty, let's have a look. The first thing I do want to draw out, two or three of them. I'm not going to make them little. They're not much fun that way. I don't know if I need that line in the middle. It's just there. By the time I paint over it, I can do those without. So you want up here. See if you can see that. And we'll do one here. There are some tulips that are just very, very variegated. There's ones that are fluffy. All right. I'm going to start with this one. Yeah, I am doing a wet on wet with this one. Maybe with the next one I won't. It just depends. Okay. I am going to do some orange. Maybe orange, maybe melon, I don't know. I'm going to do some... Yeah, that's not going to cover that, is it? I need to get a... I think I could have been a little neater. This one I'm going to do different. Let's see. Do I do 2 different tones of orange? Nope, because they don't come out that way. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. On this one, we'll just see how it looks. Sometimes I just run my brush flat and it doesn't really give any texture, but okay. Well, there's one, and I'm going to change the battery. Okay. There you see. There's the orange one. I'm going to have a little fun with some blue this time, but I'm not going to do the wet on wet. We'll see. We'll just see how different it is. And I'm going to use a different brush, more fine brush. We'll see what we... Sometimes it's just fun to experiment. I thought about one of these times figuring out how to find the time to do a flower in watercolor, one in crayon, and one in acrylic. Just in one session to see just what it would seem like, how it would turn out. Might be kind of fun. It does take a little longer without the wet on wet because it's not just spreading out in the water. So let's go ahead and do a little wet on wet right back here on the interior of the flower. Okay. It should have stronger tones in the areas where I actually dropped the paint and then spread out from there. Now, I don't know if I actually succeeded in that, but I tried. No, I think it did. Depends on how it dries. Now this is just straight again. It's no water. I mean, yeah, there's water on the pad of watercolor paint, because it has to be wet in some way. But this brush is very fine. See more of the texture of the paper underneath using this fine brush like this. Now here I've got a lot more variegation as far as light and dark. Excuse me. I got a tickle tonight. Alright, we're going to give it a bit of... I didn't do this on the other one, I should have. I'm using a wider brush this time. I thought it was going to be too stiff, because it is kind of stiff, but it actually just gives me a really nice line. Well, that was a mistake, but we'll just figure, well, that's one of Linda's things. Making mistakes. Okay. Let's see. Still need... Okay. There's 3 different methods there. Well, not methods so much. Well, 3 different colors. This one I used wet on wet for yeah, I think I did. I don't remember. But it's mostly orange. I used wet on wet, I think, in here. But here, that's pretty dark. Here I didn't use any wet on wet, and I used a smaller brush. The first one I used this brush here. I don't know if you can see that or not, yeah. Okay, the second one I used this brush. And then the third one, I use this brush. See how flat that is? Anyway, so each one came out a little different. Now, one thing with this one, I used the fine brush and it was dry on, wet on dry, and you could see a little more of the paper's texture. That's up to you whether it's good or bad. Anyway, here you can see the differences on how I lay my brush. I could lay it flat and just get a, you know, like just get the straight line, or, well, not completely straight, but, but that was with the brush that looked like this. But then I decided to just not use, I used the tip of the brush more and got a little more texture in there, I guess. This one I used the smaller, finer brush, and then this one was that flat brush. I did use wet on wet back here, and you can see it a little bit did run. It's still wet, that's why. But if I'd have kept it laying still, it probably wouldn't have done that. But anyway, that is some fun that we had tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not going to hold this up straight yet because, yeah, something started running there and I don't want it to do that anymore. So that's pretty much what I'm doing tonight. I got the chance to show you that painting that I finished that we were all going on about. And yeah, it took me a little while to finish it, but I'm really happy with those. I mean, I'm happy with the daisies and the tulips, but these leaves under the violets, those I really liked the way those came out. So it was just something very interesting to me, and I used magenta in those, on the insides of the daisies in here. I used magenta instead of brown, and it turned out different. Okay, I love all of you. I hope you enjoyed that. Smile and wave. Find someone to do that to, even if it's in your family, and we will see you again tomorrow. Have a good one and good night.